Encounter with a vampire girl. This is the first and hopefully last time I'm writing here, so I apologize if it's difficult to read. But I just wanted to share this with you as I think this is the right place, and at the same time get this case out of my head. Context: I am a 26-year-old male. The incident occurred a week ago in Cologne, where I was invited by my friend and business colleague. At 8 o'clock in the evening I was on my way home, and sat down at the bus stop to wait. I was alone there except for a girl sitting on the other side of the bus stop. It was almost empty. At first I didn't pay any attention to her and was busy texting my friends. However, several minutes passed and the bus still did not arrive. During this time I put my phone aside, and that's when I began to notice some obvious oddities, to the point of feeling very uncomfortable. The girl looked to be about 30 years old, thin, dressed in a black dress and long black boots, with a hat lying next to her seat. What confused me a little was her unnaturally, unhealthily pale skin, especially on her face. It was probably just makeup or something like that, and her bags under her eyes were outlined in black. Nothing unusual. I've seen many people with informal styles and appearances, but her eyes were so empty, lifeless, glassy. However, what really scared me was the way she looked at me. With obvious aggression, predatory like a python looking at a mouse. At the same time she smiled weirdly and disgustingly, sometimes licking her lips and quietly humming some melody. And this went on for more than 10 minutes, non-stop. Never in my life have I felt such confusion and discomfort as I did at that moment. I just wanted to run away, but at the same time, I didn't want to look like an idiot, especially since I had waited so long. I understand how silly this sounds from the outside, but I simply cannot describe how repulsive and frightening she looked at me. I just knew that something was wrong, and my instincts and intuition were screaming that this was not normal, that this should not be happening. In addition to what I saw, I just felt in my gut that this would not lead to anything good. Eye contact was unrelenting. She was still looking at me, and I was trying to look away at my watch, phone, and so on. I felt very uncomfortable, but I tried to be friendly, greeted her, waved awkwardly, but she continued to stare silently. Then the situation began to deteriorate rapidly, and her behavior became more hostile. From passive aggression she moved on to open aggression. She began to breathe heavily, grind her teeth, and squeak. Then my patience snapped. I stood up and shouted at her, "Please stop." I kept my distance and didn't go near her, because I realized that she was probably on drugs or had mental health issues. At that moment she seemed to fall silent and spoke for the first time, muttering, "I'm sorry." At that moment I felt a little calmer, and she even stopped staring at me. I texted my friends that I was still out and would be a bit late getting home, and just then my heart skipped a beat. She let out a loud cry like a scream. The girl jumped up from her seat and started coming toward me, muttering some weird stuff in German. I was confused and gradually, step by step, prepared to retreat, until the girl suddenly started chasing me and rushing toward me. This crazy clung to me with her long, sharp nails, drawing blood, and tried to bite me several times, tearing my shirt at the shoulders. I had no choice but to hit her between the ears, as it was a matter of my safety, health, and possibly even my life. After that I pushed her aside, and in a few minutes managed to run to a small shop where there were some people. I briefly told them what had happened to me, and they told me to call 110, which I did. My scratches on my arm were successfully treated by a local worker, for which I am very grateful to him. Later I went to the police station and showed them my injuries/scars on my arm. I told them about the incident, and they suggested that I file a report in order to bring the attacker to justice. However, I refused to do so because I was due to return to my homeland in 3 days and simply did not have time for all the red tape. I still don't know who this lunatic was or what motivated her, but here's my banal lesson. Never underestimate the number of crazy people around you, especially when it comes to big cities and if you are alone. I am a grown man and was able to stand up for myself, but imagine if a child or an elderly person had found themselves in the same situation. I'm afraid to imagine what would have happened next. This is not the worst or scariest thing that could happen in life, but it was so damn crazy and frighteningly absurd. And yes, fuck public transport. After this, I will always use a taxi when I'm abroad again. Let's move into the next Reddit story. He pulled a knife on our first double date. When I was about 23, my friend Emily was using Tinder and matched with a guy. She sent him a photo of me, and he told her his friend was interested. Before I knew it, we were planning a double date. Their idea of a first hangout? A hike. The guys picked us up and drove us to a desert-like trail where you could see the city and neighborhoods from far off. I already felt a little uneasy, but I hadn't promised anything. I was just along for the ride. We started climbing higher up the trail. At some point, Emily and her date walked ahead, turned a corner, and disappeared down the hill. That left me alone with him. The second they were out of sight, I felt his arm wrap around me. Something pressed against my neck. I looked down and realized it was a pocket knife. I let out a nervous laugh, probably pure shock, and he actually grinned and said, "You laughed, you're my kind of girl." Then he slipped the knife back into his pocket and kept his arm around me like nothing happened. I tried to move forward quickly and get through the rest of the hike. Afterward, they brought us back to his family's house. Apparently, they were really wealthy. I left my sweatshirt there by accident. Later, he sent a picture of it to Emily, saying I'd get it back next time I came over. There was no next time. I never saw him again. Moving into the next Reddit story, he followed me in a van, then wrote about me on Craigslist. So I was telling a coworker this story, and she suggested I share it here. Sorry in advance if I ramble. I tend to remember random details every time I tell it. Back when I was about 17, around 2009, I worked as a courtesy clerk at a grocery store, bagging groceries and bringing in carts. My mom and sister also worked there, so the place felt like family. Most of the guys I worked with were protective of me, which honestly was a blessing, because I got hit on by older men all the time. My boss would even follow me home some nights, just to make sure no creeps were trailing me. One incident, though, has stuck with me. It was an insanely hot day. I just finished wrangling a mountain of carts and ducked into the little pizzeria corner of the store to cool down. Out of nowhere, this man in his 20s or 30s came up and handed me his number. He didn't say much, if anything, just walked off. I was too overheated to react. The next day, a silver minivan pulled up to me outside. I noticed baby shoes hanging from the rearview mirror. The man tried talking to me, and I remember cutting him off and saying, "I'm 17, and I have a boyfriend." Usually that scared men away. This one didn't. That night near closing time, my cashier whispered that someone was watching us. I turned and saw the same guy from the minivan, standing around the corner, just staring. I told my night manager, who immediately opened the office door while counting tills to keep an eye on things. The guy eventually left the store, but just waited outside. My manager ended up following me home again that night. A few days later, my aunt randomly texted me, which was unusual. We hardly talked. She sent me a link to a Craigslist missed connections post and asked if it was about me. It was. The post said something like, "Saw you working at the grocery store. You were cute. You wore a bow in your hair, suspenders hanging from your shorts, a bunch of wristbands, and had bright colored hair. Your name tag said Garrett. I'm 40 and would like to meet up." The Garrett part really freaked me out, because Garrett wasn't me. My coworkers and I used to switch name tags sometimes just to mess with customers and see their reactions. So not only was this guy watching me closely enough to describe my entire outfit, but he also memorized the fake name I just happened to be wearing that day. I ran to my day manager and showed him the post. He immediately replied to it with, "Too young for you, parent." After that, things got weirder. I'd see the same silver van around, but sometimes I wasn't sure if it was even the same guy. Once, I rushed inside after spotting it, and suddenly the man was already following me down an aisle. There was no way he could have parked that fast and gotten inside. When I screamed, he bolted before anyone else saw him. The police got involved and gave me an escort home every night for a week. Eventually, I transferred to another store in a different town, and I never saw the van or that man again. Being hit on by creepy older men unfortunately never stopped, but that Craigslist post still gives me chills to this day. I wish I could find it again. It was so unsettling reading how he described me. Let's move into the next Reddit story. I have been stalked, almost kidnapped 3 times, and I think it's happening again. Sorry for the long post. I will try to keep each story as short as possible. The first time this happened was when I was in middle school. When I was in 7th grade, I would ride the bus to either my house or my grandma's on Wednesdays, along with my cousins and siblings. Both houses are at the bottom of 2 hills and have long driveways. Every Wednesday, we would see a van parked at the top of the hill, as we were getting off at Grandma's house. Once the bus left, the van would drive slowly past the driveway, or pull in and watch us. One day, as we were getting off at my house, the van sped to the driveway, and pulled in as we ran as fast as we could to the door. As soon as we got inside, they sped away as they saw another vehicle at the house. My grandma started picking us up at the end of the driveway, and they stopped. The second and third time happened when I was going to college. One night I wanted some ice cream and went to the grocery store. It was just about dark, but the parking lot was quite full, as it was a small grocery store. My only option was to park next to a white truck. I'm slightly paranoid and try to get out of the car and into the store as quickly as possible. As I was getting out of the car, I noticed the passenger door of the truck open and an arm try to grab me. I book it inside and stay there until the truck leaves and an employee can walk me out. The next year I began a job at Burlington. We had a regular customer that always came to my register. He seemed a little strange and never really talked to me. A few nights after I get off, I notice a vehicle parked near my car every night that doesn't belong to my coworkers. I brush it off but stay aware. Often when I got off, I would get wings from next door. One night as I'm waiting in my car for my order, I see this customer get out of this truck and start walking toward me as he's fiddling with something in his hands. I forgot about my order and sped off. I also quit the job shortly after. Now I have seen this same man at every store I go to lately. I go out to eat, he's there. I go to the store, he's there. I go to the park with my daughter, he's driving by. I never see him near my house or my work, so I'm unsure if it's just a coincidence. However, I'm starting to get scared to leave the house, as I am scared he's actually following me. Update: I started a new job about 3 months ago in a town over, so my commute is 1.5 hours. I stopped seeing him as I mostly went home and to work. However, I have now been seeing him in the town I work in. I usually go to Subway for lunch on Mondays, and have seen him there the last 2 weeks. I know everyone has been saying I've been paranoid, so I'm not sure what I should do. Let's move into the next Reddit story. I believe that I'm getting spied on, or that someone's living inside my house that I don't know. Hi Reddit. I'm a 19-year-old guy living with my parents. I'm about to start university, and since the start of these summer holidays, I've been feeling like I'm being spied on, or that there's actually someone around my house, either inside or outside, just wandering around. Today at 12:15 a.m., I'm writing this now at 12:22 a.m. on August 13th, 2025. I've noticed strange things happening, and I honestly think I might be going crazy. I live in a small town where there's never much going on, really nothing at all. I hear footsteps in my attic or behind the wall of my bedroom, which is right in front of my bed. You should know that the only way to get there is to go through my mom's room and then through the attic hatch, but the only way to access it is from inside the house. For example, right now there's this horrible smell, like wet grass mixed with something burnt and something rotten, and it's disgusting. But what really made me realize something was wrong was that when I leaned in closer, I heard a video, maybe YouTube, or someone talking to someone else, but I couldn't understand the words, and there was literally no one outside. I wanted to smoke outside in my garden, but I couldn't. My brain was telling me not to go, because even outside I could hear noises, around 12:04, 12:05. I don't understand. I feel like I'm losing my mind, but even my mom has heard footsteps, though outside. She went out at 4 a.m. to check what was going on, but found absolutely nothing, no one. Sometimes I hear noises on the roof tiles, like someone's trying to get in through my window, but there is absolutely no one. This has been happening for a few days now, and I don't know what to do. I sleep with the windows open, but the shutters closed. I sometimes panic. I'm really scared that there's actually someone in my house, especially since all the houses around mine have been broken into or squatted, except ours. Anyway, I don't know what to do. I know this isn't really the right post for here, but I just wanted to share my story and release some pressure. Should I call the police? Moving to the next Reddit story. I tried to help a girl at 3 a.m. I was probably the one who needed help. This happened literally yesterday, and I honestly don't think I've fully processed it yet. Me, F19, and my friend F19 were biking home at around 3 a.m. on a dimly lit street right next to our house. On one side was forest, pitch black beyond the tree line, and on the other side were a bunch of houses. From far away we spotted a red car with one broken headlight parked ahead. As soon as we got closer, the car started moving, past us very slowly, then made a U-turn and drove past us again. Even in the dark, it was obvious we were two girls alone at night, so it put some space between us and them. As soon as we got to the sidewalk, we noticed a girl standing partially hidden behind a white truck, watching that same red car. The car was creeping towards her. Then she ran off, running up the sidewalk and turning into a bike path that cuts through the forest. Immediately, two men got out the car and followed her in. So we decided to follow and try to help that girl. Survival instincts hadn't kicked in yet. I live next to that forest. I know how dark it gets. No one walks that path without a flashlight unless they have a reason, and even then it was 3 a.m. The slow footsteps, the bucket hat guy, the way the car disappeared, it all just felt wrong. We reached the path entrance and saw the red car just waiting there. The driver, a guy in a white bucket hat, looked straight at us, then sped away far into the street. The path was pitch black. We walked in, fence on one side, dense forest on the other. That's when I noticed its slow, deliberate footsteps, keeping pace with us, definitely not an animal and heavy enough to be a person. We kept walking on until my friend spotted the girl ahead of us. She shined her flash and called out, "Hey, are you okay?" The girl looked over her shoulder, stared for a moment with this unreadable, creepy expression, and then took off running deeper into the darkness. At that point, our survival instincts finally kicked in. We turned and sprinted back the way we came, screaming as we ran. We called the police as soon as we got back to the street. Within minutes, 3 police cars arrived. They asked questions, and one ghost car drove down the forest path. About 5 minutes later, they returned and showed us a photo of the girl. The cops said they found her with one man, which made no sense, because less than 10 minutes earlier, we'd seen her completely alone and running away. They also said neither of them would identify themselves or explain why they were there. They brushed us off, saying we could go home now. As we walked away, we saw 3 people get into a police car, which made it even weirder because earlier they said there was only one guy with her. So was there really someone following us in the woods? I keep thinking, what if this was trafficking bait? Maybe the only reason they didn't go after us was because we started screaming. Either way, I can't stop replaying it in my head. So guys, what did you think? Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. See you next time.